Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are investigating one of the most sensational straight-out-of-sci-fi military claims to hit the news in recent years. We're going to completely unpack the science, run the numbers, and try to figure out if what we're being told is a massive technological breakthrough or, well, a highly orchestrated deception.
So here's the core question. Could intelligence agencies really deploy a futuristic device capable of locking onto the faint, rhythmic, magnetic pulse of a human heart? And not just from up close, but from kilometers away, through mountains and deserts. I mean, it sounds like absolute magic, right? But as you'll see, the line between quantum physics and spycraft can get incredibly blurry.
Okay, Section 1, the Ghost Murmur Mystery, a 2026 hypothetical rescue. Let's dive right into this gripping scenario that actually kicked off the whole media frenzy.
Imagine this. 0 hours. An American fighter plane is shot down deep in hostile territory. Both crew members eject, but they get separated. By hour 7, search and rescue miraculously locates the pilot. But the weapons systems officer? He's injured, he's hiding in the mountains, and he literally can't transmit a standard radio signal without giving away his exact position to the enemy forces closing in. Yet, incredibly, at the 40-hour mark, he's rescued. How? Well, the press reported that the CIA deployed a highly classified tech dubbed Ghost Murmur, a system that supposedly picked up his heartbeat from miles away.
Section 2, Heartbeats and Magnetic Fields, the biology of electromagnetism. Before we judge the tech, we've got to look at the biology. Does the human heart actually project a magnetic field? Short answer, yes, absolutely. Our bodies run on electrical impulses, and whenever current flows, it generates a magnetic field. Because your heart muscles fire in this really powerful, synchronized way, it creates the strongest magnetic signature in your entire body, measuring roughly 50 to 100 picoteslas.
Now, to detect a 50 picotesla heartbeat back in the day, you needed this massive squid magnetometer. And we're talking extreme cryogenic freezing temperatures, perfectly shielded rooms, total stillness. Obviously, you can't strap a freezing squid to a military drone. But today, enter nitrogen vacancy, or NV, diamond sensors. These are solid state, they operate at room temperature, and they are incredibly robust. And these synthetic diamonds are supposedly the secret ingredient behind Ghost Murmur.
Which brings us to Section 3, quantum diamond sensors, flawless defects. You know, when researchers in this specific field were recently contacted by journalists, a bunch of them suddenly declined to comment. They revealed they'd just been made to sign NDAs. So what on earth is happening inside these diamonds that makes them a matter of national security?
Well, the magic isn't actually in a perfect diamond, it's literally in a microscopic defect. An NV center is created intentionally. You take the carbon lattice of a synthetic diamond, you swap out just one carbon atom for a nitrogen atom, and you leave the space next to it completely empty. That little void traps 2 unpaired electrons, and because electrons have a property called spin, they act just like a tiny compass needle. When they're exposed to an external magnetic field, say a heartbeat, those trapped electrons will try to align themselves with it.
So how do you read that tiny compass needle? You use light. Think of the energy levels in an atom, kind of like platforms in a video game. In a pure, flawless diamond, the gap between those platforms is so huge that visible light just passes straight through without being absorbed, which, by the way, is why pure diamonds are transparent. But when you add that NV defect, bam! You unlock new secret energy platforms right in the middle of that gap. Now the electrons trapped in the defect can absorb very specific wavelengths of light to jump up to those new platforms.
Let's look at how this builds into an actual sensor. It's basically a 3-step process. Step 1, you shine a laser into the diamond to excite those trapped electrons. Step 2 is where the magic really happens. If there's an external magnetic field nearby, it actually causes those secret video game platforms to shift and split apart, a super cool phenomenon called Zeeman splitting. And finally, step 3, because those platforms moved, they now absorb slightly different wavelengths of microwave light. By measuring exactly which microwaves are absorbed, we can calculate the exact strength of the magnetic field outside the diamond.
Now, I want to be clear, this technology is absolutely real, but there's a massive catch. Yes, we can read magnetic fields from neurons, and yes, in 2022, researchers actually successfully used an NV diamond to read a rat's heartbeat. But listen to this, it required a thoracotomy. That's open chest surgery, and the diamond sensor had to be placed less than 2 millimeters away from the rat's bare beating heart.
Section 4, the physics reality check, running the numbers. So, how do we go from a sensor sitting 2 millimeters away from an open chest in a lab to a drone flying over a mountain range kilometers away? Yeah, it's time for a physics reality check. The universe is governed by pretty strict mathematical rules, right? And one of the biggest ones here is the inverse cube law for magnetic dipoles. It basically dictates that as you move away from a magnetic source, the strength of that field drops off incredibly fast. It falls off with the cube of the distance. So if a heartbeat is 50 picoteslas at the chest, by the time you're just 100 meters away, that signal has dropped by a factor of 1 billion. If a drone is searching from, say, 50 to 100 kilometers away, that magnetic field drops down to an unfathomably small 10 to the negative 30th power teslas.
18. So, the crucial point is this. To detect a field that impossibly faint, the CIA's device would need to be 18 orders of magnitude more sensitive than the absolute best synthetic diamond sensors that exist today. An 18 order of magnitude leap isn't just a tough engineering hurdle, it fundamentally clashes with the known limits of physics.
And honestly, even if you miraculously built a sensor that sensitive, think about the real-world interference. You wouldn't just be listening for one human heart. You'd be picking up the competing heartbeats of literally every wild animal in those mountains. You'd be completely overwhelmed by the electromagnetic noise of the drone carrying the sensor. In fact, a single solitary electron sitting 1 meter away from the sensor produces a stronger magnetic field than the heartbeat you're trying to find kilometers away. Looking for this signal is quite literally like trying to hear a single whisper inside a roaring stadium. Section 5. The real truth revealed, the art of deception. Okay, if physics tells us that Ghost Murmur is essentially impossible, why is the press reporting it? And why are researchers suddenly signing all these NDAs? If the CIA didn't invent a miracle heartbeat tracker, what are they actually doing with these quantum diamonds?
Well, a former CIA operations officer gave us a massive clue here. Fooling your enemy to protect a vulnerability, that is espionage 101. When a highly advanced, highly classified technology is being developed, intelligence agencies don't just hide it in the dark. They actively create false narratives to completely mask its true purpose.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how perfectly history is repeating itself. Think back to World War II. British pilots started miraculously intercepting German bombers in the dead of night. To hide the fact that they'd secretly invented onboard aircraft radar, the British leaked a cover story to the press. They claimed their pilots were just eating massive amounts of carrots, giving them superhuman night vision. Today, we have Ghost Murmur. The cover story is a magical heartbeat detector. But the reality of that hypothetical mountain rescue, it would almost certainly just be traditional radio beepers used in brief, clever ways, combined with good old-fashioned ground intelligence.
But hey, those diamond NDAs are very real. The government absolutely is pouring money into NV diamonds. So what's the real classified application? Navigation. See, the Earth's magnetic field isn't uniform at all. It creates this unique, invisible, topological map of magnetic perturbations all across the globe. A highly sensitive diamond magnetometer inside a missile, a jet, or a submarine could read this magnetic map and know its exact location anywhere on Earth. And why is that a game changer? Because unlike GPS satellites, the Earth's magnetic field cannot be jammed, it can't be spoofed, and you definitely can't shoot it down. Next-generation navigation is the real prize here.
The entire Ghost Murmur story is just a brilliant masterclass in modern deception. They took a kernel of real quantum physics and wrapped it inside a completely impossible application. And I think it leaves us with a really critical question to ponder. As we are constantly bombarded with headlines about AI breakthroughs, quantum leaps, and futuristic weapons, how many of those miracle technologies are actually real, and how many are just modern-day carrots designed to keep us and the enemy looking completely the wrong way? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning everything, and I'll see you next time.